The music industry has been under intense scrutiny, especially with the scandal surrounding Diddy reaching a boiling point. But beyond the chaos, there's a bigger picture many seem to miss. A lot of people are unaware that the music industry has been on a downward spiral for quite some time. In recent months, hundreds of employees have been laid off from some of the biggest labels. But this isn't happening to just employees. Artists themselves are getting dropped like flies. What initially seemed like an anomaly now looks like a systematic shift. The music industry is shrinking, and it's happening fast. Some might say it's dying, but the truth, it's more of a rebirth. In today's video, we'll dive deep into what's really happening. Stay tuned because you don't want to miss this. It looks like the long-awaited evolution of the music industry is finally taking shape, all thanks to the unprecedented double-edged sword that came with the emergence of streaming. Atlantic Records, one of the biggest record labels in the US and home to countless A-list stars, recently reported that they're downsizing in a bid to be more efficient. According to their statement, it's part of a major restructuring initiative they've been working on for a while. Several reports indicate that over 170 personnel working at the label have been let go. From management to marketing, the purging is intense. Insider sources reveal that Atlantic is undergoing significant internal surgery and no position is entirely safe. The interesting thing to note is that Atlantic's reported internal restructure isn't limited to just personnel. They're also cutting ties with artists, releasing many of their contracts. There has been a flurry of anonymous reports that several artists have been dropped by the label in recent months, with more likely to follow. This raises the question, just how many artists are signed up to these major labels? Especially when you consider the fact that they sign thousands of up-and-coming artists every single year with the same age-old promise: we will make you a star. The harsh reality, though, is that these major labels are well aware that 95% of these artists won't succeed, and only a select few of those that do succeed will ever achieve A-list status. This is why it really isn't a surprise many of these artists are now being labeled as dead weight that needs to go. This perceived restructuring in the industry isn't confined to the lower levels. It's reaching the very top of the food chain. Waves of music executives are stepping down from their respective positions, signaling a major shift. Kevin Liles, CEO of 300 Entertainment, is one of the most notable departures, while Julie Greenwood, chairman of Atlantic Records, is also reported to be stepping down in January of 2025. While this may seem like another day in the office when it comes to the entertainment industry, it's far from business as usual. We are finally witnessing the highly anticipated shift in the industry, fueled by the ever-growing power and influence of streaming platforms. Ever since their introduction in the late 2000s, along with the rise of smartphones, streaming platforms have only gone from strength to strength in their mission to reshape the industry. Napster was the first peer-to-peer streaming service to shake things up in the industry, but fast forward a few years later, Spotify took over and they never looked back. By the late 2010s, streaming had gone on to become the primary revenue source for the music industry, overtaking both digital downloads and physical sales. After years of unprecedented highs since its introduction, it seems like the winning streak of streaming platforms has finally begun to slow down. According to recent reports, revenue growth is decelerating at an alarming rate than previously anticipated. For instance, Sony Music reported only modest revenue growth in the second quarter of this year, a clear downward trend compared to the booming numbers they once pulled in. A lot of these issues can be attributed to the steep rise in inflation post-pandemic, which has impacted countless industries, but the music industry has been hit especially hard. You might be wondering, how does inflation affect music? Well, let's break it down. Touring is a significant revenue stream for most artists, but the unprecedented rise in touring costs has been a huge stumbling block lately. From a rise in fuel prices to rental fees and an increase in labor costs, touring has become a logistical nightmare for many artists and show promoters. These financial strains have led to many artists struggling to profit from their tours, with some even canceling shows altogether. It would have been easier to just increase the price of tickets for fans, but it's not as simple as it sounds. Artists and promoters are hesitant to raise ticket prices, fully aware that inflation isn't just hitting the industry, it's affecting the fans too. There's a huge chance that a regular fan wouldn't be willing to splurge a few extra dollars on pricier tickets, especially after their spending power has been reduced thanks to inflation. For many, attending concerts has shifted from being a regular pastime to a luxury. If tickets become too expensive, fans simply won't buy them. This growing disconnect has put immense pressure on labels' profit margins. With artists earning less due to rising expenses, labels are feeling the pinch just as much as everyone else. This ripple effect extends beyond ticket sales. From merchandise to streaming subscriptions, the industry is grappling with reduced customer spending. But that's not the only challenge. The cost of creating and marketing music has skyrocketed, putting labels in a tough spot. Most artists in the industry are signed to major labels, and only a small fraction operate independently. While independent artists like Russ, who famously writes, produces, and mixes his own music, are adept at cutting costs, signed artists don't have the same flexibility. Labels shoulder the expenses for writing, production, mixing, and promotion, making the process significantly more expensive. As a result of this massive increase in the cost of creating and marketing music, labels are focusing their resources on a handful of artists with proven earning potential. Believe it or not, many artists are struggling, and a lot of them are surviving only on the advance check they got when they signed to the label. What many people don't realize is that these advances are effectively loans that need to be paid back through record sales. Every expense an artist incurs a label during the creative and marketing process of their music is an additional loan that must be paid back. Yeah, you heard that right. Whether it's music videos, featured artists, or first-class flights, every single penny has to be paid back through record sales. This is to give you a vivid understanding of the situation many young artists find themselves in the industry. Now, imagine an artist who isn't making sales or landing live gigs. How do they pay back what they owe their label? The harsh reality is, their label effectively traps them in a perpetual state of debt, one they wouldn't be able to pay back ever. Countless artists, from Method Man to Fat Joe, have spoken out about these impossible situations many artists find themselves in. Artists find themselves dependent on touring and merchandise sales now more than ever, but even that has hit a stumbling block following the steep increase in touring costs. To make matters worse, labels pile on the pressure, demanding constant visual content to promote music. Despite being penny per dollar deals, artists are expected to churn out viral hits at a breakneck pace. The focus has shifted entirely to creating fleeting trends, leaving the artistry behind. That's why many artists today lack the depth or talent to craft timeless music. They're being conditioned to chase virality over longevity. Building a lasting career has become nearly impossible, as labels prioritize short-term hits over meaningful, enduring artistry. The wave of layoffs across the industry has only worsened this situation. Promotions, A&R, and other crucial support systems are being gutted, leaving artists to fend for themselves despite being tied to a label. It's no wonder why more artists are waking up to the harsh truth. The glamorous image sold to them is a facade. The odds of things improving seem to be getting slimmer and slimmer by the day. Remember music icons Prince and Michael Jackson once likened record label deals to another form of modern-day slavery after they realized the kind of deals that they were being offered to artists across the board. If even legends like Michael Jackson couldn't overcome the system, what hope do today's rising artists have? This deeply entrenched exploitation has persisted for decades, and the industry's powerful gatekeepers aren't letting up. Another perfect example of the shady dealings of the music industry is Tupac. A lot of people assume that Tupac had it all set for him when he was at the peak of his powers, but the reality was, he wasn't as rich as many people make him to be. After his death, several media sources reported that Tupac's family was left in a state of shock after finding out the rapper was millions of dollars in debt to his record label Death Row Records. Even the house Tupac supposedly purchased a few months before he died wasn't even in his name and was allegedly taken right back without a care in the world from his label. Many argued that Tupac simply mismanaged his finances when he was alive, but the reality is the moment he signed that record deal and took that bonus check, he was effectively handicapped and his fate was sealed. The bad boy persona and expensive lifestyle he flaunted at the time were all funded by his label, not to mention the slew of legal troubles he found himself involved in. The bills were racking up, and the only person who gets paid in this scenario is the label, something they did gracefully without remorse. Tupac's story isn't unique. It is the order of the day. It's happened a million times before, and if things don't change, it'll happen a million times more. Record deals are often crafted to appear enticing, designed to look like a win-win for the artist, but in reality, they rarely are. No matter how successful an artist becomes, the deck is almost always stacked in favor of the label. Even in today's era, where independent success stories are more prevalent, the allure of fame drives many artists to sign predatory deals. The promise of a shiny signing bonus is all some care about, never stopping to consider the long-term consequences. Labels exploit this desperation, knowing full well that the moment an artist takes that check, there's no turning back. With the abundance of information and clues about record labels on the internet in today's world, many inquisitive up-and-coming artists have the opportunity to do a bit of research and arm themselves with valuable knowledge about the intricacies of record deals. They will surely come in handy if they eventually get a contract offer, but the sad reality is that many artists don't take up these opportunities to research and be knowledgeable about the business side of the industry. A lot don't understand music is an intellectual property, a product they're looking to sell, which means it's effectively a business, and businesses require attention to detail. Record labels have marketed the lies at such a grand scale that it becomes the truth to many of the young artists out there. Lack of information has always been weaponized for years in the music business, and it's high time people wake up. They need to know that corporations in the music business will keep making their money no matter what. If the talent business wasn't so profitable the way they claim, why are they still dashing out checks and contracts to these youngsters? One certain thing that's never going to change is that for every artist that gets dropped, 10 more are signed to take their place. A continuous cycle that's not looking like changing anytime soon. In as much as the labels retain all the power in the industry, this is how things are going to be. The majority of these artists have no clue what is waiting for them on the other side of a record deal. And those who sign the contract knowing full well what they're walking into still end up getting blindsided in ways they never imagined. Major labels have finally hit a stumbling block, and it looks like many are crumbling, much to the relief of many independent artists. The reality is the music industry is dying, but it isn't the music that's dying. It's the industrialized part of it. The industry has always been based on a lie and an illusion, one that's been carefully crafted for generations, but it looks like things are finally changing now. It's been long overdue for power to be in the hands of artists. Hopefully, this is going to happen sooner than later. With all this said, what do you think about the state of the music industry? Do you believe artists deserve to have more power to determine what happens with their careers, and do you believe the music industry is due for a reset? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. If content like this resonates with you, subscribe to our channel and leave us a like. It goes a long way to helping us provide the content that you like. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.